Hey, what's up, friends? Eric Crumbaker coming at you from Real Estate and Shit. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Eric Crumbaker. I am your host, but I do have some amazing guests, and we have some amazing topics to go over. If you've been tuning in to any of our last episodes, what you have noticed is what we do is we go over all the different headlines of the ones that we pick out, the ones that, really reach out to us, and really we just go through and see if this article or the articles that we're reading are full of shit or not. And, us being in real estate, we're in the trenches. We understand how this game works and, what's good and what's bad, us being consumers ourselves. So we have this podcast. It's called Real Estate and Shit. So you guys, thanks for tuning in. Let me introduce both my guests. I have my right-hand man, right-hand lady. We have Sadie. How are you, Sadie?
I'm great. Thanks
Sporting
for
the Human Element merch, always.
Yeah, we have the same design on today.
We do have the same design.
On different things.
Boom, you have to zoom in on that one.
Yep.
And then next, we have another special guest. This is her second or third appearance. I don't even know these days. They're just racking
number
up.
Two. I'm number two.
She is number two.
And that would be shit. Oh,
I love that. Well, you welcome Char Costantino. Very glad and honored to have you on again. So thank you very much.
So welcome, Eric.
Wow, we got ladies on today. We got girl power. Ooh.
Woo.
Do I feel outgunned today?
Let's go. Let's make it real.
Well, ladies, thanks for coming. We have some really good topics to go over. Do you guys want to just hop into them? Do you guys have anything that you guys want to talk about before we get on into these topics?
I think I like
Sounds
to go
like
straight
quite a bit.
I like the topics because
I love it.
I think it kind of guides us into what's happening today.
You know, it's crazy. I'm going to be honest with you. As I get into these topics, I was researching for a good 2 hours on good topics to talk about today. And it seems the last, I would say, 3 months of doing this podcast, there's been so much daunting, skies falling sediment where we're going to go into recession. How long is it going to be? And save your money and cut your subscriptions and don't buy this and don't buy that and, get out of real estate and never look at real estate again and run the other direction. It's just, that's the sediment that I've been feeling. And I feel that could be, not necessarily don't know, but I feel like we're in the middle of it. Like we're in the deepest part. It could get a little worse. I don't know. But the articles I'm finding, they're not terrible articles that I found in the last couple of days. And it kind of blew my mind because now would be the time where I'd be writing the articles. I'd be writing these articles now because we're in it, not 3 months ago talking about it when we weren't really in it. I don't know. I was just confused on some of these articles. But either way, let's get right into it. So this is the first article, and I actually found this from Keeping Current Matters. They have really great articles, and this one is it's labeled... shifting market, the latest supply and demand in housing. It says, Char, over the past 2 years, actually, let me get the headline for this. I want to read the headline. So the headline says, the latest on supply and demand in housing. That's exactly what a great headline. It says, over the past 2 years, the substantial imbalance of low housing supply and high buyer demand pushed home sales and buyer competition to new heights, which we all know. But this year, things are shifting as supply and demand reach an inflection point. I'll show the graph here. I'll have Brian throw it up there when you guys watch this. It says the graph helps tell a story of how differently things are today, and actually shows showings are negative 12% and active listings are up 26, almost 27%. And it says this year buyer demand has eased as higher mortgage rates and mounting economic uncertainty moderated the market. This slowdown demand is clear when you look at the red bar on the graph. It used the latest data that we have from Showing Time to illustrate showings have softened by 12% compared to the same time last year. It says now look at the new housing supply has changed. That's turned to green, which I just mentioned, and that's up nearly 27% compared to this time last year. That's because the moderation of demand allowing housing inventory to increase in 2022. So it says, what does this inflection point mean to buyers, Char? It says, if you're thinking of buying a home, you have less competition, more options than you would have last year. Enjoy having more homes to choose from in your home search, and lean on a trusted real estate professional to understand how the increase in supply has also increased your negotiation power. That professional can talk you through opportunities, challenges in today's shifting market. Can also be, you may be surprised to find out they're different than they were a year ago. Number 9, it says, what does this inflection point mean for sellers? It says, overall, this means if you work with an agent to price your house based on current market value, it will still sell despite the inventory gains and moderating buyer demand this year. That's because, Char, there are still buyers out there who want to move, and your house may be exactly what they're looking for. So before I move on, I can just say bottom line. It says bottom line, if you're looking to buy or sell a home, the best place to turn is information today is looking at today's supply and demand and is working with a trusted real estate professional. Let's connect with you. Thoughts on the new sentiment, or thoughts on this article about advantages for buyers and sellers in this market, based on mortgage rates and this inflection point they see we're having based on the showings being down, active inventory increasing.
Well, I think it's very accurate. It's very factual because we've been following it ourselves in our local community. We look at it every single day and track what showing time is saying as far as active showings. So they are down. So that means there's not a whole lot of buyers out there looking, and inventory is increasing. But they are able to look and find homes and take their time and find the right match. And then there's no like rush to the table to write an offer and maybe go over list to get it. I mean, they don't have to stand in line and do that anymore.
This is for the buyer side, correct?
This is for the buyer side.
Yeah.
But on the listing side.
Well, hold on. Let's
Okay.
go right back. Let's
All
stick
right.
on this buyer side
Okay.
because you mentioned something. Not a lot of buyers, and I think we talked about this last week. Were you here last week, Sadie? Who was here last week?
Stacey
Oh, Stacey and Chris. You know, we talked about this last week. There's not a lot of buyers. And you know what? The ones who are buying right now are the ones, in my opinion, who are taking advantage, like myself. If you watch any of my Instagram posts last week, I had a long post about you can't preach it if you aren't doing it yourself. I'm currently buying property in multiple fronts. And if I'm doing it and I see the advantage of it, I feel like I could preach about it. And when there's not a lot of buyers, which there aren't a lot of buyers, I'm actually grateful for this because it allows me to go out there, find the right home, negotiate the right price, ask for credits, not release my contingencies, not give away my first child, not throw all the risk on the table. And it's great for buyers. But let's talk about the seller side of the advantage, because I still feel sellers are in an advantage.
Well, I mean, they can be if they don't have a good agent, because my listing appointments that I actually
they're
go
not
out
Char.
on,
It's true.
when I go out, I really try to educate them on all the what ifs.
Okay.
So they need to know who their buyer is,
Okay.
what their buyer might look like, and what do we need to do to attract more buyers.
So you're creating an avatar.
So I'm creating an opportunity for them to understand that there might be an opportunity for them to ask you for some concessions, which, we haven't had concessions in years where sellers participated. So concessions are something that could be part of the equation of selling your home.
Okay.
Also, you have to make sure the home is in the best condition it can be in, because the inventory, yes, is increasing. So your competition is
Increasing.
Maybe some homes will be a little, more improved,
Yeah.
or they will have the pool, or they might have, the backyard. And so you just need to create in your home the best the home can be. And that might be a little improvement on their side. And of course, I've always believed in staging, because who doesn't like a model home?
Agreed.
And so if your home is dated, sometimes that is a deterrent. And sometimes people can't get the feel. Like they see the photos online first, and then all of a sudden they start to think, well, it doesn't talk to me, it doesn't appeal to me, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. But have you ever walked into a model home and say, I don't love it, no matter if it was your colors or not? It's just how they put it together.
Well, yeah, Sadie, have you been in a model home before?
Well, I've been to IKEA and I want every room. So, but where I get where Char's coming from is like Stacey talked about this a couple weeks ago when I was here, and Char's talked about it a lot. And you want the buyer to imagine themselves in that home. So
Yeah.
if your house is like old furniture and you don't want to fork up some money for staging and painting the walls white, then you might not have as much interest and be as competitive, like Char was saying, as those other houses.
Yeah,
they want to see themselves there.
It's a really good point, Sadie, because I have a story, and you guys can kind of tell me if you guys have heard this story before, and I'll make it real short for everybody here. On staging, I think we had a listing, beautiful listing, but it's an older listing, original, And we had some people see the property in its original condition, and they're like, this is not going to,
Didn't even make it past the living room.
Didn't even make it past the living room. They're like, not for me. I don't like it. And then all of a sudden, we went in there and did a quick coat of paint, cleaned it all out, and staged it correctly. And am I correct? It was your daughter, actually, Char, who's in real estate, who walked into its staged property after she walked into original property and said, "Oh my God, this is the house for me." And she actually purchased the home.
That was the clean version of it too.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest right now. That is a case in point of why staging is important. And even in the industry, can't have the vision that what staging can do mentally for your own personal vision.
Well, it was just not only dated. It was, they lived in the home for 56 years and never got rid of anything.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a clutter, but old stuff laying around everywhere. And so you just can't get a vision,
Yeah, I get it.
And,
Yeah, you can see past the blue carpets when you have nice furniture.
Yes.
I agree.
And so I told Stacey, I go, she goes, my clients, I couldn't even get them past the living room. And we just turned around and walked away. And I go, well, what do you think now? She goes, oh my God, I love it. She goes, sold. I'm buying it. She goes, this home speaks to me in every way.
I love it. And if I'm correct, she's in escrow.
She's in escrow.
Good for her. See, another person buying. People are buying right now, people, just so you know.
Another real estate agent
real estate agent is buying. Actually, a lot of my friends who are colleagues in the industry are actually out there buying right now. Really quickly, Char, we're on the listing side. We're on the seller side. And you talked about all the different things or ways or strategies a seller can get their home sold or positioned correctly, especially in a market that is increasing. Let me ask you this, because I've been hearing this a lot lately from the really good agents, the ones who are at your level or near your level, the therapist side of being a listing agent right now. I feel like right now your mental game has to be so strong. Your knowledge on the market has to be so strong, because you're dealing with people in a shifting market where homes aren't selling what they were. Homes are listed on the market longer than they were. There are price reduction conversations. There are inspection. There are list of repair conversations. They're just different conversations than we had before. And I feel like you as an agent have to be one of the best therapists in the market right now to be servicing your clients at a high level like you're doing.
I agree. I mean, but the first thing I have to ask is the questions, because I think you need to know what their motivation is, obviously.
Correct.
And you have to really think it through with them,
Yeah.
not necessarily for them, but with them, and ask the questions so that they are fully informed of the decisions of moving forward or not. And most sellers are really wanting to sell, but they're afraid of having to take a bath because they think that the market's changed.
No one wants to take a haircut.
And nobody wants to, feel like they're going to, lose their equity when, obviously 6 months ago they're at the top of their game.
You know what, Char, I'm going to actually boast on you a little bit and our brokerage. Not that I talk about our brokerage if ever in this episode, but we actually ran the market numbers, Char, so I'm going to boost you up a little bit. Our brokerage compared to the market right now is getting 97% of the listing price or the asking price from the seller. You, my friend, are still getting 101% of the asking price on your listings. So what that tells me, and the data is the deciding factor, is the homes that you list and sell are actually getting the ask price of what your sellers are asking. So that's huge sediment for you, especially when you compare yours to the rest of the market, which is under. So, it is what it is.
Well, there's a lot behind that. So experience.
This is the therapist talking about the experience, the knowledge. You want to work with somebody that's been in the market, that's been through these shifts. They've been through these turns in the market, because if we know best, most all agents came in the last 10 years and who have never experienced what we're dealing with now, because I'll tell you, what got you here is not going to get you there. And you and I both know what we have to do now for the new market is a lot different, and we have to really use our elbows and really get back to work and put our nose to the grindstone.
Well, I'll tell you what I learned from our last time that we went down this road.
Tell me.
The fact that, I was a little bit in denial, thinking that the market was going to continue to drop as it did in 07, 08. And I kept believing that the fact that we were going to be turning the curve sooner than we did. And so what happened was that we came in with pricing thinking that we were competitive. And then we kept reducing it until we've realized that we were chasing the market south versus listing it at the best price possible at the very beginning. We wouldn't have lost time or money. So I learned that this time. So I ask my clients now, do you realize if your home doesn't sell in 45 days that we're going to have to make a price adjustment? And this price would probably be 3 to 6% less than what you're talking about right now. And do you really want to go down that road? I'm going to advise you not to, and I'm going to advise you to list the price at market value so you get the best interest and not hang out on the market and waste time, which is money.
Agreed. That's great sentiment. I mean, if you're another real estate agent, man, take note of that one. All right, moving on. Great content today. Okay, the next headline, we have another Keeping Current Matters. It actually says the emotional and non-financial benefits of home ownership. So it's very interesting. All the sentiment I'm reading is advising home ownership, advising buying, advising selling. But 3 weeks ago, it was not. So I'm confused on headlines right now, on sentiment and where they're going. And do they all email each other at night, talk about what their next topics are?
What they're wearing.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So this came out yesterday, October 17th, and it says first-time home buyers, move-up buyers, rent versus buying. With higher mortgage rates, you might be wondering if now's the best time to buy a home. While financial aspects are important to consider, there are also very powerful non-financial reasons it may make sense to make a move. Here are just a few benefits that come with home ownership. Homeowners can make their home truly their own. I think that goes back to what Chris says. He always talks about
quality of life.
Quality of life. Owning your home gives you a significant sense of accomplishment because it's space you can customize to your heart's desire. I love that. Next, responsibilities of home ownership give you a greater sense of achievement. Let me just kind of read through here. It says there are numerous interior projects. There are no denying. As a homeowner, you have the freedom to adopt a pet, paint walls. It doesn't give you a lot of...
Adopt a pet.
It doesn't
I can get you around that.
This one doesn't give me a lot. It just says if you're planning on buying a home this year, there are incredible benefits waiting for you at the end of your journey, including the ability to customize your home, the sense of achievement homeowners bring, and a greater connection to your community. So that's kind of all it talked about. There wasn't a lot to this article. Very interesting. At the end of the day, home ownership, there's a lot of benefits to it that I don't even think this article even discussed, and I'll tell you why. This guy probably doesn't own a lot of real estate. And they write these articles, and nothing to dish on them, but I would have added, once you own a home, the leverage of your home, at that point you can refinance down the road, take that money and buy another home. You can pull HELOC out. You can use that as just leverage to buy another home. You can pull money out to do fixing up your home. The benefits outweigh the negatives over and over again. So let's just bypass this article. We're going to go to number 4. This is it. It says perspective matters, Char, when selling your home today. This one actually came out today. It says, does the latest news does the latest news about the housing market have you questioning your plans to sell your house? If so, perspective is key. Here are some trusted ways real estate professional can explain the shift that's happening in today's market and why it's still a seller's market even in this during this cool down. It says fewer homes for sale than the pre-pandemic. It says while the supply of homes available for sale have increased this year compared to last year, we're still nowhere near what's considered market balance. And it actually shows a graph here, and it shows here the same week of 2021. It says inventory the week ending October 7th compared to the last 3 years. And it says, I can't read this right. I don't understand. It shows supply this year has surpassed 2021 levels by over 30%. But the further back you look, the more you'll understand the big picture compared to 2020. We're just barely above. Same week in 2021.
I have a question about inventory.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying right now is that, or what that article is saying, is that inventory is higher than it was last year, but the previous years were actually not that much above it as far as inventory goes. Is that because houses are sitting on the market longer? So instead of it selling in a weekend like it was a year ago, it's sitting, and then more listings are coming, which we're seeing because we're like, wow, we have so many listings, which is a great thing.
Correct.
And it's normalizing to be on the market for longer. Is that why there's more listings? Because there's kind of compiling a little bit and sitting on the market longer?
That's how you get a plethora of listings. So, for example, Sadie, in 2005, 6, and 7, or more like 7 and 08, when the recession hit, everyone lost their homes and sold their homes. So inventory just flooded the market, and then it sat. So over the next 3 to 4 years, inventory sat as more homes went up for sale, trying to stay above water. Most people sold their homes just to stay above water. So around 2011 and 12, there was just so much inventory in the market where hedge funds, because when there's so much inventory, the amount that we saw, prices drastically declined because there's just so much inventory, where hedge funds came and started gulping these up like fish. Just like imagine a whale just scooping up fish in their mouth. Like that's how much inventory they were just buying up. And then once inventory kind of shrunk again, it kind of got the buyers back into the market because it was shrinking. And then all of a sudden it created what we just lived through.
Got it.
So what was happening too at the same time is that people were losing their homes and had no place to go. So they were renters. So the hedge fund companies were buying their homes technically and renting them. They were holding, not reselling. They were holding. And then they were renting them out to this huge market that had lost their homes.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And now we're experiencing an inventory adjustment hitting the market again, where inventory is starting to increase only because rates are so high. The pool of buyers that can afford an 8%, 7%, 6.5% interest rate, they don't want to buy the home that they now can afford. Because if you think about it, 3.2% to 6.6, if I could buy a home at $400,000, $500,000, I'm looking at $1 million now, because interest rates have doubled for me to get that home. So you're looking at doubling pretty much what you would have to pay.
Right.
So they
So
have to readjust their expectations or pull out from the market altogether.
well, whether they're adjusting their expectations or not, what still happens is the world's moving. Homes are still hitting the market. Less people are buying, which creates more inventory hitting the market. So as they're thinking and trying to figure out what life's doing,
Homes are still appreciating.
Homes are still hitting the market, which allows inventory to increase. And agreed on this chart, homes still aren't even close to what they were. And another feeling that, it's funny, I watched a Gary Vee video today where he was warning everyone to not make any purchases over the next 3 months. Don't buy houses, don't buy cars, cut all your expenses. We're going to this thing. But when I look at sentiment from a real estate perspective, we're not even close to 2007 and 2008, because at that point they were giving loans to people that shouldn't even have ever had a loan. They were never qualified. They were fake loans. And now what we're dealing with is, because we're getting qualified, we had to get qualified, we have to jump through hoops. It was almost impossible to even get qualified. And people who have owned their homes over the last 7 to 8 years, they've got equity saved up. So I don't see the housing market getting hit as much as everyone thinks it is. I feel it'll be more of the workforce will be hit harder than I feel housing. And I can see how it trickles down to housing, but I feel the savings in their homes and equity they put up is their saving grace. Char?
Well, I think Gary Vee, his point is that if everybody just stops doing everything, buying, whatever, it's going to, make our market to the point where we have to see a change, or everyone's going to be hurting even greater. Because if people start getting laid off because, they can't open up their doors, or they can't sell their product or whatever because people aren't buying, the service industry, goes flat. Real estate is a key indicator of keeping our economy going. I mean, there are so many people that depend on our industry for the economy, especially
you see it on CNBC every day. They always talk about the housing industry.
It's the building, it's to the servicing, where we have the termite people, we have the contractors, we have the painters,
home builders.
We have the home builders. We have so many people, escrow companies and lending companies. We have so many people tied to real estate that we have to keep real estate moving forward. In order, to keep and get through this process of the interest rates being so high. I
agree.
think we're going to go through it for a short period of time, but we have to recover.
I agree. It still says here, Char, homes are still selling faster than they were in normal years. It says while homes aren't selling as quickly as they did a few months ago, the average number of days on the market is still well below pre-pandemic norms, in large part because inventory is so low. And it's true. Inventory is so low. In LA, still no inventory. Carrie and I still can't. There aren't homes just popping up everywhere.
I agree.
And the ones that are priced good are still selling pretty quickly because there are still people who can't afford who are still buying, and it's a great time. And I'm just blown away. And this graph even shows it. I mean, homes are still selling pretty quickly.
Well, we're selling homes very quickly
Yeah.
here, so it's like it hasn't really. Maybe there are areas that have been hit harder than others.
Well, it's so funny, Char. I'm looking at this other graph, and Brian, I really like to see these graphs up on. I don't know if you are or not, but this is a really good graph. It actually shows the demand returning to more typical levels, and it actually shows back to February 18th in 2018 a graph of the amount of people looking at properties, and January 2020. This thing skyrocketed in green all the way until we're at right now. And the last 2 months, July and August, all this is a mere image of July 2018 to January 2020. We're just in a normalized market. And I think we talked about this months ago, what we feel we're doing. It says, bottom line, if you have any questions about selling your house in today's market, call Char Costantino. Her number is 909-228-8862. That way you have context around what's happening today. So you're up to date and you can expect when you're ready to move. That was a nice little ad they did. So Char, so let's get to a little negative sentiment, because when you use positive, you can always find negative. So this is our last article for the day, and I wanted to kind of get your sentiment on this, Char, your input. So this is Gary Keller, and he's on Inman, and it says Gary Keller 2022 poised to become the second worst deal in history. So it says Keller said during an Inman Connect that transactions could be down nearly as much as during the Great Recession, though he added there are still opportunities for those in real estate. It says Gary Keller, who co-founded Keller Williams, just laid out a stark view of the current real estate landscape, Char and Sadie, comparing it to the Great Recession and saying we're on track for the second worst year ever. Though he did add there are even in times of crisis, there are always opportunities. Keller made the comments during a Tuesday session of the Inman Connect, moderated by Brad Inman. The conversation plunged quickly into the market shifting dynamics. Prices are now predicted to fall, and loan applications are dropping rapidly, with Keller noting that on the onset of the Great Recession, transactions dropped by 1.5. Are you dying on me? I can't even get through this article right now.
She can't. She doesn't want you to. She's like, this is all negative.
You're coughing right into the mic.
Sorry.
Do you need water?
Yeah, I need
Oh,
water.
look. Rob to the rescue.
Thank you.
It's because she's calling clients all day, being a therapist, her
I
throat's
was
dry,
on the phone all morning.
All right, so I want to finish this. Says Keller Williams, co-founder of Gary Keller, said just laid out the Keller Williams, co-founder Gary Keller, just laid out the stark view of the current real estate landscape compared to the Great Recession, saying we're on track for the second worst year ever, though he added that even times of crisis, there are opportunities. Keller made the comments during Tuesday's session at Inman Connect, moderated by Brad Inman. The conversation plunged quickly into the market shifting dynamics. Prices are now predicted to fall, and loan applications are dropping rapidly, with Keller noting that the onset of the Great Recession, transactions dropped by 1.5 million. The second year of the Great Recession, we had the largest drop in 1 year recorded history. 1.5 million transactions were taken off the book. Things aren't likely to get quite that bad this year, Keller said, but thanks to the rising interest rates and increasingly unaffordable homes among those factors, he did predict a dip about 1.3 million transactions. From a sheer transaction drop, Keller continued, referring to 2022. This is the least second worst terms of that speed in which it has ever dropped. That makes for a challenging situation, and Keller directly compared the present moment to the late 1970s and early 80s, the time which he entered the real estate industry when inflation was similarly high. He also noted that the journeyman definition of recession is 2 quarters of negative GDP, which has already happened. But Keller also said that the current market has a unique characteristic that offers hope. Unemployment remains low, for instance, and Americans have more cash and equity than they ever had before the Great Recession. Moreover, days on the market for homes remaining low, suggesting that Keller's words that demand is off the charts. So he says, Keller went on to acknowledge that the logic of the current situation would suggest prices will indeed fall, but he also argued that no matter how tough times are, there are always opportunity. The real opportunity of this disaster or shift is what happens when you come out of it, Keller continued. Right now, the winners will be those who look up and go, okay, we're going to be able to double down our value proposition. We're going to double down on lead gen. We're going to double down on staying connected, da-da-da-da-da. So what is your thought process on Gary Keller's outlook on the market and him thinking 2022 was the second worst year in history?
Well, I don't know how he's measuring that because in our local community, it's not like that. Our numbers are better.
Okay. You sound like you're dying.
No, I was just...
No, I know.
Strangely.
Okay, so you feel that he's talking on a national level and you feel on a hyper-local level that we're not necessarily going to see something that he's referring to.
I mean, I don't know, I don't have a crystal ball, but California has been, we come back strong. We do hit hard, because we did in 2007, 2008, but California has been a really strong comeback. So I can see some of the states like Texas and Idaho and even Nevada, they just were on fire. I mean, people were moving out of California, buying in these local areas, and their property values, they just shot up overnight.
Yeah.
Something that was so affordable became so unaffordable in this last year. So our numbers did shoot up, but the demand to be in California and the income levels are still strong. I don't see us going through that same process.
Yeah, no, I get it. And it's funny, Keller Williams, they're great at grooming new agents. They have classes and webinars, and they have everything that you need if you're a new agent. But it says that the conversation ended with Inman asking Keller what he'd advise newer agents to do right now. It says Keller responded that they should live in the top of the funnel. Went on to explain that lead generation, excellent service are the key skills agents generally should focus on, but that in order to have clients to service, you have to have clients in the first place. He said, ergo, new agents should spend their days building their database. Real estate is a contact sport, Keller concluded. Immediately make sure you're spending half of what you're doing every single day talking to people. So, it's very interesting, in my opinion, to hear Gary Keller come out with this type of sentiment, especially with all the information he has. I thought it would have been a little more positive. I know he said there's opportunities out there. I just feel that with what I see, maybe he's getting different information from me, but I feel like we're getting information from the same people, that nationally or hyper-locally, I don't personally see it maybe he's already looking at the numbers of the past, like 2022 already is racking up for the second worst year in history, but I feel like 2007 and 8 was way worse than this year.
Oh my gosh.
So what is he even talking about?
Yeah. There's no comparison.
There's no comparison. So what am I missing?
I feel like he's just trying to say, like, hey, he's trying to spread the doom and gloom and then be like, but, here's what you can do. And at Keller Williams, we do this. Like, this kind of felt a little bit addy for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, you were talking about how they recruit. And also, he is speaking on a national level. And like Char was saying, I know people who live in the South where it hits a lot harder because their population is lower. But in California, we're overpopulated. We're, for now, always going to have an influx of people who need to live somewhere. So
true. That
has a lot to do with it as well. There's quite a few things that contribute, I think, to that article.
Other than 2007, 2008, I've never heard of a bad year to buy real estate.
I agree. I mean, I see it only as a positive, but I don't really like the fact that the interest rates have kind of been the focal point of our economy right now. And that has hurt some of our buyers. But the saving grace is that they won't stay high forever.
No, I know. You're not marrying your rate, you're dating your rate. This is why I'm buying.
Yeah.
And I'm actually happy they're all on the fence because it allows me to buy. So,
right. More options.
And a lot of people are.
There's always a silver lining in every market. You
I
just
agree.
have to find it and look for it.
Well, what's the alternative? We always talk about what's the alternative again? Going back to low inventory, low rates, and writing $100,000 over the asking price.
Yep. That goes back to our grass is always greener.
Yeah,
thing,
grass is always greener, which it never is. Just water your own damn grass.
I just don't know how you can control that when you have a supply and demand issue anyway.
Agreed.
So interest rates might stall some things, but it's not going to solve the problem.
No, interest rates does not solve the problem. I don't think it was supposed to. I think it was just supposed to stop the market from moving and allowing more inventory to hit and stopping people from buying.
Well, that's an oxymoron. And the reason why is that people who have a 3 or a 2% interest rate currently, and then we're going to convince them to sell their home and go up to 7 to 8%. It's a really hard thing. So why we don't have supply and demand is because we can't convince them to do that.
Agreed. So what's the fix?
Well, the fix
more
is,
new housing.
The fix is new homeowners, people that haven't never gotten into the market, will have a chance to buy. And then at some point, that seller, keep in mind, California, my age is retiring.
Yeah.
So a lot of my aged clients are moving out of California just for affordability.
Yeah.
So, there's always going to be an opportunity.
I agree. It's funny. We didn't get into this, but Mom, I think we could have dove into this. It's actually, and the headline was, it's time for the mortgage industry to create more meaningful options for home buyers.
Oh, so true. Well, they're starting.
No, they're starting,
Totally.
but, I'm not going to read through the whole article, but it ends up the last sentence in this entire article says this. It says, beyond slowing agent count. Oh, no, this is something else. Hold on. It says this. In addition, most lenders. Where is it at? Either way, it said lenders need to be more like real estate agents and more resourceful in finding ways to get, like real estate agents get homes sold. Lenders and banks need to find better ways, flexibility to help sellers and buyers both. Yeah. Because like you said, you don't want to have a 2% interest rate and then sell for a 7%. So there has to be ways banks can figure out a good way to get sellers to sell their home where it makes sense for them. And also for buyers to be able to buy a home, it makes sense for them too. So right now, if I was a bank, I'd be having a bunch of people in a room cracking heads.
Yeah, and they need to be educating each other. Like lenders need to be fully educated. They're the ones who educate the real estate agents.
Of course.
So
they give us.
It's a full circle.
They let us know what happens on the loan side.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So there's a lot of options. When interest rates were, when I first started the business, they were 15%.
Correct.
So a lot of assumable loans were popular back then. You could assume.
You up for 15%?
You can assume.
Sadie?
You
and
can
it's cheap enough.
Yeah. Well, you can assume the 3 or 2% loans.
Yeah.
And then you would have a second. That's the high interest rate. Right.
Okay.
So if we could get assumable loans back, we'd be selling houses every day.
Yeah.
Because it just makes sense. It's affordable and there's an opportunity for that second to be paid off in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So, those are
Well, we're
options.
doing that. We're going through options right now. So
adjustable rate mortgages, adjustable for 3, 5, 7 years. Those were popular.
Before we end, Char, it's funny you said that. I actually read an article yesterday, and I didn't bring it up today, but it was an article warning buyers to be hesitant on these ARMs and these different products these lenders are putting out because they're very similar to the types of loans that were being serviced in 2007 and 2008 that ended up the start of the collapse. But again, I feel like people take this information because they don't have the context of how it can actually work and where these people are and how they have to be more qualified. And they just throw out these articles because I think it's smart, because we're using it ourselves, to be going through this, because I actually read it from Byron. It was one of his podcasts last week. He said the 30%, the 30-year is dead. It's dead. For now, it's dead. Don't even use it. Don't look at it. Find something else.
Well, going back to what you said just a minute ago, the interest rates, are on the high side. But the low side to that is that if you can find like a compromise in between, where the lender can actually kind of support a better program, I think that it would make everybody feel a little bit more confident, because I think buyers are just worried that, the interest rate. But the difference from back in 2008 and 2009 and even back in 85.
Give it to me.
They qualified you for the lower interest rate. And that's why the adjustable rates were a sad market, because they realized as the market kept going up and their interest rate was going up, their house payment was going up, they couldn't afford it. Well, this time around on these 3-1 or 3-2 buy downs, they have to qualify them for the high fixed rate, right? So knowing that their payments will start lower, but they have to qualify
for the high.
So that makes it a little different.
A lot different. Wow. Well, we're going to end on that. Char, Great knowledge drop.
Education
101. Yeah, guys. Everyone, thanks for tuning in today. So much content. Char Cosentino, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for dropping a knowledge bomb on us. Love it. Sadie, always great that you're always here. Love it. Love the merch. Don't ask about the merch. You can't buy it. We made one-offs.
This
so
was actually, we're both wearing one-offs.
we're wearing
right now.
one-offs. This is the beautiful thing about samples. So yeah, you guys, thanks for joining in. Leave some comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and we look forward to seeing you guys all next week. Cheers. Bye, guys.
Bye.